Hello and welcome to Kinetic Marketing Co. Today we're here to discuss with you how to start your own very Facebook ad. So once you have created a business manager, you can go into creating the ad account. If you'd like to learn more, please watch one of our videos in terms of how to set up a Facebook business manager. But today we'll be going over how to set up your very own first campaign and everything you need to know to get this up and running. So we always start off with creating a new campaign. So as you can see, Facebook will recommend us a campaign objective. So that could either be a sales, lead, traffic, awareness, engagement, promotion, whichever it is relating to your business. If you are an e-commerce business, I highly recommend going with sales. If you are a service-based business, I highly recommend going with leads. But these other ones, such as engagement, traffic, and awareness, they play a different role. So with these ones, they kind of bring in more cheaper cost per clicks because the whole focus is to bring in as much traffic to your website as possible. It may potentially be good to run when you have a fresh new ad account with no data in it at all. So then what you can do is send some traffic to your website so you can start to get some data into your ad account. But in this instance, with this particular client, we're in the property industry. We are looking for leads. So I'll be going with leads for the campaign objective. Then we'll be coming to a campaign setup. So when it comes to tailored leads campaign, this is pretty much giving you full control to Facebook. We generally want to have control over this campaign, so I'll be going with a manual leads campaign. However, either one is fine. Great. So now we have set up a new campaign. With this particular campaign, as you can see on the left side here, we've got the actual campaign itself, we've got the ad set, and then we have the ad itself. So these are the three components when it comes to running a Facebook ad. Depending on also how much budget you have too, you will have to structure this accordingly. But let's just say we are starting with a small budget of $20 per day. This will give us a whole different strategy compared to $100 or $200 per day, or even more. So what happens first is a campaign name. Generally, I like to leave the campaign name till the end because we need to get down into the nitty-gritties before we can start keeping things clean. But in terms of the campaign name, it does have to be a name where you can look at the campaign and remember exactly what you've tested and what has been going through the campaign. Because what will happen with Facebook is once you have all the winning metrics, you can put it into a whole new campaign and run it from there. So in this instance, we have special ad categories. So you can only select these when you offer any of these particular services. So any financial products and services, employment, housing, social issues, elections, politics. For now, I'm just going to leave it unticked. And then we can move on to campaign details. Here, generally I'll leave these all as is because we are doing an auction bidding system here. So you don't really want to mess around with these. The campaign objective is fine. So advantage campaign budget is when you kind of distribute your budget across ad sets to get more results. So you can control the spending of each ad set. So what this does is pretty much when you set this on and you leave it the budget, if you have multiple ad sets, it's going to kind of push the budget across each ad set to find the best performing ad set. So as you can see here as well, even with a daily budget of $20, you will spend an average of $20 per day. Your maximum daily budget is $35 and your maximum weekly spend is $140. So what will happen in some instances is when Facebook knows that there's going to be better results for you, it might push your budget to $35 for that particular day. But then on the day, let's say it's less conversions that will come through, so we'll even spend even less than $20. So overall, you won't spend nothing more than $140 per week. But in this instance, we don't want to run an ABO campaign. So Advantage Campaign Budget, previously known as CBO, so Campaign Budget Optimization. We won't be running with this one today. Only time when I would like to do this is if I have multiple creatives, multiple ad sets that I want to test and see which one's working the best. That's when I'll usually set this one on. And again, A/B testing, you can always split test in terms of the type of creatives you want to test. However, for now, we'll just keep this off. So now you have to choose a conversion action. We will be going websites and calls because again, we are looking for leads to come through to the business. So we want contact forms submitted on the website, and we also want to be targeting phone calls as well. However, some instances you can go with generate leads through your website, but for our particular situation, we'd rather go with websites and calls as we do have a contact number that we can get phone calls to. So yeah, just make sure you choose a conversion action that relates best to you. If you were doing e-commerce, you'll probably see purchases, add to cart, all these other types of variables that will be beneficial to your business. Even you might see the lead forms and phone calls. However, with e-com, I would prefer you to select purchases. It's because then that's what the ad account will optimize for. So as you can see here, performance score, how you measure success for your ads is maximize number of conversions. So if you were doing e-com, it would say purchases, but in this instance, since we want leads, this will be the maximum conversion. So to click on through that one, you can kind of go from there. So next thing to note is the data set. So this is the Metas pixel that will be put on. It's a small bit of snippet of code that will be put onto your HTML coding of your website. Generally, it's placed on the header and the body. But what this does is it helps send the data back onto Facebook Ads Manager when someone does take action from the ad on your website. It'll make sure it relays that information, encrypts it, sends it back to your Ads Manager here. So it's very important to have this one set up. You can set it up through Events Manager on the Facebook platform, which is the button right here on the left. However, we do have more videos to show you how to set this up. So feel free to watch through our channel to get a full understanding of this. So next thing is a conversion event. We are specifically targeting leads. We want leads to take action on our website. Even over here, Facebook does kind of give you a bit of a guidance, I would say, but again, don't take this with a grain of salt because I have seen it sometimes work less than what it's showing here and sometimes even better. But with this audience size, this is what it's kind of indicating. We'll reach 2.1 thousand people, up to 6,100 people based on how good our ads are, and generally can populate around 8 to 23 conversions from this campaign based on how it's set up at this point in time. So cost per result goal, optional. I would generally only set this one up if you know what your cost per acquisition is. So if you've previously had leads come through at $40, you can set this at $40. So Facebook tries to get you that lead for $40. But in this instance, we're just going to leave it blank because we are still fresh with this ad account. Attribution saying 7-day click. So any lead that kind of comes through within that 7 days, it'll be picked up, and 1-day view. So next thing again is dynamic creative. So with this, what pretty much happens is that you will provide Facebook with many pictures, videos, copy, headlines, any type of creative that will go into the Facebook ad. You can feed it as much. I think it's about 5 of each things. Generally, I would only test this when I have multiple things I want to test with a bigger budget. With $20, I probably wouldn't be testing this, because it can potentially flick your ads into learning mode. So that learning phase is another thing to talk about, which it kind of has to go through a learning phase where it has to pick up a certain amount of conversions to exit this learning phase. If it generally doesn't, then that means you have to keep on testing. But again, don't feel stressed out that you are getting the learning phase, because it's just normal practice. Sometimes when there's no data in the ad account, you need to get that data coming in. Facebook needs to see where your conversion points are. However, that's a whole different story, a bit too long to discuss in this video. So make sure you feel free to leave a comment as well if you have any questions about this, but we should most likely will make a video about this in the future as well. So in terms of budget, so you can see we set it as a $20 budget, but what can potentially happen is on some days it might spend up to $35. But what will happen is maximum you'll spend is $140. So 7 times 20 is $140. What this is like, for example, if Facebook knows on a day you're going to get extra conversions because there's just more search volume and more traffic behind it, it will spend upwards of $35. But then what will happen is on the next day, for example, if there's not as much search volume or anything, it might even spend less than $20. So overall, in the course of a week, you should maximum spend is $140. So expect your budget to fluctuate up and down. So we've given it the criteria of $20. So it may spend up to $35, but overall, no matter what happens, it will maximum spend of $140. So yeah, just a bit of a disclaimer with that one, because sometimes it does get a bit tricky when clients say, hey, I spent $50 today. What's going on? But it generally does spend less the following day and so forth. So start date, again, I usually like to set my ads at midnight, just because it allows the full day of spending, because we are targeting Australian market, generally set at midnight Australian time. If you're in the US, if you're in Europe, again, midnight works as well. I have seen people set it up at the moment, let's say it's 2 in the evening and they finish creating the ad, they will launch it at 2 o'clock in the evening. I personally like to set things at midnight. However, you do need to check in to make sure things are progressing, because sometimes what happens is, for example, like right now, I would like to set it's 10 o'clock. I'd set it on now, watch over it through the day, and then it will usually get a notification from Facebook saying your ad has been scheduled. Then that means you're all good to go. But in some instances, what happens if you launch it at, for example, you set it at 12 o'clock at midnight, but you launch it at 11:50, it may not go live by 12 midnight, even though you've set it to be 12 at midnight. That's just how it works. It has to go through a review phase. End date, I wouldn't generally set this because I manually turn things off, but if you do have an end date in mind, you can set it up, but I don't generally recommend it because sometimes if you set the end date too short time, like a short time frame, you haven't gotten the right data, you haven't given the ad enough time to work and do its magic. So there is budget scheduling, increasing. Generally, if you ever wanted to increase the budget, we recommend a 20% scale per day. However, there are some people that mention that anything below $100 spend, you can bounce it up and down as much as you like. So if you like to go from 20 to 40 to 20 to 60, 20 to 80, it shouldn't affect the ad account. But personally, I have had better experience kind of slowly scaling it up. But if you see your metrics, it's all about the metrics. Once the data does come through, see how your metrics are performing. If they're performing really good, then yeah, you can kind of work around it. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but yeah. Audience controls is probably the biggest lever that you're going to be pulling through Facebook ads. So at the moment, you can see that we have Advantage Plus audience already set up. This is just the Facebook thing where it automatically has this turned on for you. The only time I'd recommend Advantage Plus is if your account has a lot of data and then you already have a lot of conversions, because then this is kind of a retargeting campaign. So only do this one, I would say, when you do have a lot of data in that account, or if your ad account has been live for a very long time. That's when I'll kind of recommend it. But for now, in this instance, we're going with original audience. So if we prompt this, it'll show you a 30% lower cost per result. Generally, it's good to turn that on once you have a bit of data within that account. So here you can see we've got custom audiences. We can create new audiences, lookalike custom audiences. We can add exclusions if there's certain people we don't want to be targeting. There's the age group, genders, and then we also have the actual where we put the interest in. So with this particular client, they're in the property space. There is a lot of ways you can go about this. Some people recommend to go broad, so just keep it all clean, keep it as it is, go broad. Or they say maybe have one interest per ad set. Some people say stack the interest, so maybe have like 2, 3. My recommendation is test, because every ad account works differently. After spending thousands of in ad spend, I have noticed that every ad account works different to different businesses, different industries. So best to test it all. See if stacked works better, see if broad works better, see if single interest ad group works better. But you need to test, because some people think, hey, I'm spending $20 a day, there's been no results, it's not working, just give up. That's not the case with this. You have to let it run and spend, and then make reiterations from the data you receive. So very important to try to run that through and see what works best for your industry and your ad account. But if I was to kind of, stack these interests, then what I would do is I would even also write the ad set name to be $20 stacked interest. So whenever I do come back to looking back at my ad sets and the ads, seeing which one has worked, which one hasn't, this is going to be very, very important. So it will help you keep things clean and neat. All right, so we've got A/B testing when you use Advantage Plus. I usually don't do this because if I ever wanted to run a test, I just run another campaign alongside. And then you got policy and regulatory requirements. You can usually select this on if you have checked it in the campaign level. Then we have placements. I personally like to keep this given to Facebook to select the best placements, because if you manually bid for certain placements, it can cost more. That cost per click can rise. So for example, the feed is more expensive to target compared to stories or in stories or reels, for example. But you can kind of break it down to where you want it to show. So for example, in-stream videos, ads on Facebook. I like to generally leave this one on. However, again, this is up to your preference too. See what works best for you, because if you're going to manual placements here, you can select, you can untick audience network, messenger if you think these two won't help you. For example, we've got Facebook feed, profile feed, Instagram feed, marketplace. You can turn these ones off, on and off, Instagram, explore, home. So there's a lot of placements that you can have your ads to show in, but making sure your creative aligns with that particular field. So it's no point of having a picture in a reel section, if that makes sense. So like the stories and reels, sometimes it can, if your like creative is really strong. But again, just that kind of example where you wouldn't want to have an image where you should be showing a video, if that makes sense. So, all right, awesome. So now let's move on to the next stage, which is creating the actual ad itself. So now we're in that fun part, which is creating the ad and so on and so forth. So now we got a couple of options. So when it comes to partnership ads, that's if you are running an ad when you have multiple profiles that you want to run ads to. So two different profiles, you can use a partnership ad. So it helps you run ads with creators, brands, and other businesses. So you can generally see the Instagram, link up the Facebook pages and so forth. However, when we want to, we're not going to be running partnership ads. You can do it if you like to, but for us, we don't need to. So we also have identity here. So this is the Facebook page we'll associate and the Instagram page. If you don't have these two connected, you can do it through the Meta Business Suite. But again, best to connect these two up, because then what will happen is whatever ad we create will show on both particular platforms. So now into the setup of the ad. So we can create a whole new ad from scratch. We can use an existing post or use a Creative Hub mockup. Generally, what is best to do is sometimes use an existing post. So if you've posted it on your Facebook page, you can run that as an ad. So whatever engagement you get from that ad, it will show on your Facebook page. However, in some instances, you can just create a whole new fresh ad from the start, because once you use the existing post, you can't change it again. So if you run that post as a new ad, you won't be able to change it. Like you can't change the call to action or anything like that. So sometimes create ad is the best way to go. You can run catalog ads as well. So sometimes what you'll see is the big picture or the big video. Then you'll see some little like products or any things within your catalog that will show. So mainly around e-commerce, that's pretty good. So yeah, automatically uses media from your catalog. We show to each person the catalog items that they are most likely to engage with. So that's sometimes good for e-com, but you got to be very careful, because when you do select this, if you have multiple clients like I do, it might get any type of catalog from any business. So you have to always double check to make sure that you're running the right catalog with the right store. And then we have single image of video, carousel, collection. Generally, we go with single image of video, but again, best to test out which format works the best for your audience, because sometimes if your product is more education, needs more bit more educating, then carousel is the best way to go. However, if like, you've got a really good image, a really good creative, maybe video or image, then best to run it as a single image. So collection, I haven't really done this much before, but I do know it's a bit of a drop down. So when they click on the ad, it prompts you with a lot more things. However, yeah, this is always also on. So not really too sure what this one is, but it hasn't. So what will happen is when you do put the creative and you do upload a video or picture, there will be options to crop it, title it, give it all types of things. And then we have the setup creative. So when you go into setup creative, again, you have to upload the image or the video, then it will prompt you with the headlines and the text. There is AI generation as well with Facebook, so it does help you kind of get a bit of an idea of what's that you like, what you can use and what you can run. However, for now, I'm just leaving it because all this will be tailored based on what you do. So, and then we'll need the final URL destination, display link here. So, for example, if we didn't want to have the whole HTTPS, we can just write, example.com/bestseller, for example. And something like that. So then it will show on the display link here at the bottom. So you won't see this full link. You'll just see some code here too. So, yep. And then you've got the call extension, languages if you want to translate it. But for this purpose, we're just going to keep it in English. When you do have your coding set up, so the Meta Pixel set up, this should be active. It will be a little green dot here. So this, what it will do is it will track event data sets that contain the conversions your ad might motivate. So the data set that contains the conversion selected for ad account will be tracked by default. So since we are targeting leads, anyone that turns into a lead will come up on this instance. And then we've got URL parameters. So this is if you ever want to kind of know exactly, let's say you're testing multiple ads, multiple campaigns, this will help you kind of nail down exactly where it came from, what ad group, so on and so forth. So you can kind of fill in the fields below. So that source, maybe like, for example, site source name, campaign medium. We can kind of go into the medium. So the name, don't stress too much about these. So campaign medium is not that. We'll put in campaign ID, campaign name, and this one's usually ad set. I'll put in there. Then maybe even ad name, for example. No, actual ad itself. So then we can put the ad ID there too. Apply, and then it has this kind of code here. So what this will do is whenever your website here comes up, it'll go slash, and then it'll go UTM underscore source equals da da da. That'll be a huge long line. What this will do is that it will make sure it tracks the site source. So say it came from Facebook, for example, the medium, the campaign, everything like that along with this. So it's pretty much everything here, and then you kind of go into publish at the end of it, so it goes into live. But now that we kind of know, let's say this one was a video ad, I would like to type in video 1, copy 1, maybe 2 headlines, for example, so I know exactly what's going on in here. And then overall, we know that we're targeting property audience, since we're running an ad set budget optimization. So that means I'm going to be giving $20 per ad set. So if I even create new ad sets, they'll have maybe their own budget, so spending accordingly. And then, yeah, you let it pretty much run. I would even also like to write the date. So, for example, we're launching tomorrow, so the 4th, 3rd. So then I know exactly when it was launched, how many days the ad's been running, how much is spent, so on and so forth. So hopefully this video, the video has given you a lot of background into how to set up your campaign. It is a bit of a diligent work, so do take the time to make sure that you haven't missed anything when you are setting up the campaign. But if you have any questions, please feel free to write a comment down below. I'm happy to answer any question that you might have when it comes to running Facebook ads. As you know, our agency does run Facebook ads and Google ads. We are quite specialized within this. If there's anything we can help out with, feel free to let us know. But in the meantime, we hope you have a great day.